Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's TOC podcast. I'm Joe Weichert, Chair of O'Reilly's Tools of Change Conference. If you want to see all of the upcoming TOC products and events that we have in the works, be sure to visit us at O'Reilly.com/TOC. I'm joined today by Eric Hellman. Eric's the president of Gluejar, the team behind an interesting service called Unglue.it. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Unglue.it, the website is Unglue.it. Eric, welcome to this TOC podcast.
Thanks, Joe.
So let's start things off, Eric. Tell us about Unglue.it and what's the elevator pitch for it, basically?
Well, I have two elevator pitches. I have one pitch for the head and one pitch for the heart.
Okay.
The pitch for the head talks about the business model. And if you think about how public broadcasting works, public broadcasting, either radio or television, costs a lot of money to produce a program, costs a lot of money to run a radio station, to pay all the employees. But the marginal cost of serving an additional listener is zero, or almost zero. So a business model where you can raise enough money to pay your fixed costs allows you to serve as many listeners as can listen to it for free. And ebooks, being digital and electronic, have the same characteristic. They cost a lot to produce. Authors spend a year of their lives, pouring their souls into a book, and they need to find a way to be paid for that. And same with publishers; they do a lot of work. It's expensive to produce files, but once you've made that fixed investment, it's possible to do distribution without any additional cost to the producer. So if you can find a business model where you raise that fixed cost, you can make ebooks free to everybody in the world.
Okay.
So we think that there's at least some segment of the publishing market that can fit that business model. So here's the pitch for your heart. Joe, have you ever given anybody a book?
Absolutely, yeah.
And are there books that you've given to several people because you want everybody to read them?
Yeah, definitely. And even in the ebook world, I find that
Right.
gifting isn't the simplest thing either because platforms are different and so forth.
Right. So I've talked to hundreds of people, and everyone has the same answer. There's always a book that they love, and they want to manifest that love by giving that book to as many people as they can, and getting everybody to read it, and have society get as much value out of that book as possible. And it's worth money to them. They're willing to support making books free to the world. So I urge viewers to think about what books they would give to the world.
And
if you could.
So how does it work then? Are you aiming mostly on sort of the long tail after a publisher has kind of earned back those fixed costs and made their profit and they want to sort of release it to the wild?
Well, we think that there's a need for a mixture of revenue streams for publishing going into the future. And at least to start out, we're concentrating on backlist types of titles, long tail sorts of titles, which don't really get a very good benefit from per copy distribution models.
Okay, so these are titles that might be languishing, and I feel like one of the myths of the long tail is that it causes every book to have some sort of sales velocity, but that's not necessarily the case, right? And
not
so
at all.
you could increase the discoverability. And just to be clear, what you're saying is there's a price that the rights holder would set, and once that price is achieved through individual contributions or payments or what have you, then the book would be released into the public, and there's no strings attached, and people could download it in a variety of formats?
Well, we're using a Creative Commons license.
Okay.
So the rights holder still owns the copyright,
Okay.
and retains all of the rights that normally apply. But what they have done is given readers a license to do certain things. That is, read it, redistribute it, and certain other limited things that most readers would want to do with a book. It allows you to distribute the books without any digital rights management or anything, so it makes everything a lot simpler.
Okay, and then what about enhancements? Can somebody take it and maybe add their own content to it or tweak it in some manner?
Well, that depends on the particular Creative Commons license that's used.
Okay.
We expect that most authors will want to use the non-commercial, no derivative license, which does not allow the licensee to make derivatives of the book. And for this purpose, a derivative means something with some creative addition, such as a translation would be a derivative, or a new edition with additional matter would be a derivative. What is allowed under the Creative Commons licenses is format conversion. So if the rights holder releases a PDF, for example, the licensees have the right to create format conversions and redistribute those.
Okay.
And we're taking the long view of it. In 50 years, it won't be EPUB 3 or PDF that people will want to read. They'll want to read using the EPUB 16 format.
Right.
And the Creative Commons license allows people to apply format conversions so that the books don't go away.
Okay. So now the big question, I'll bet that's on everybody's minds, and I know that you've spoken with a number of publishers and other rights holders about the Unglue.it model. What's been their reaction so far?
There's been a lot of interest and a lot of skepticism, and everyone wants to see someone else go first and see whether it's going to work.
Yeah.
So we have a very small number of books that will have an offer when we start campaigns, but we have a lot of readers, a lot of libraries who are hungering for a chance to put money into this. And so we think the first few books will easily meet their targets.
Okay, so let's talk about libraries for a minute. What sort of an impact do you feel Unglued could have on the future of libraries?
Well, I mean, just yesterday, Penguin announced that they were stopping their lending of ebooks through libraries. And, if you think about it, libraries depend, especially public libraries, they depend on lending books. And when everyone wants to read ebooks instead of print books, and when print books become economically untenable, what's going to happen to libraries? I think that libraries, have lots and lots of changes to go through in front of them, and one change that they have to make is changing their emphasis from managing scarcity to managing abundance. Right now, books are a scarce quantity. It costs a lot to manage them, to store them, etc., and to acquire them. But in the future, books will be abundant. The best works of human literature are already free. They're in the public domain. And libraries can start to manage public domain and get people to read all the books that they want. What Unglued is trying to do is find ways for books that are in copyright to move into the public commons and allow libraries to manage and promote and distribute these works.
Okay. Last question for you, Eric. How does a rights holder test the Unglued model? I mean, what's involved in putting content into the program to see whether their minimum campaign level can be achieved?
Well, the mechanics are that a rights holder will sign an agreement with us, and that gives them the right to offer, the right but not an obligation, to offer a work for ungluing. And if they have any work that they have, if they want to start a campaign, they can. Campaigns can last up to 6 months, and they just have to set a price that fits the market for it.
Okay. All right. Well, this to me is a really interesting and exciting model, Eric, and I'd like to ask you if you'll come back maybe in 6 months so we can check back in with you to see how things are going.
Well, that'll be fun. I hope I'll have time.
Okay, terrific. Well, Eric Hellman, president of Gluejar, thanks so much for taking part in today's TOC podcast.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joe.